Hello, B3L. It's Rotes DB doing another Market Monday update. I know we want to make these regular. Of course, I did not send out a uh, video reminder on doing so. It is a long weekend here, so it made things a little bit hectic. Next weekend is also a long weekend, so again, it'll be hectic, especially given that it's Thanksgiving weekend. So I might not even be able to make next Monday, just given all the family stuff that will likely go on. So, but we're here today and going through the market. We do have Hypno Halo here with me. He may or may not uh, want to comment or join in, but if you can make these sessions, I like the interactivity when we can get it to discuss what's going on. If not, then I go through kind of what I'm seeing over the last week, and then digging in a little bit more in the terms of the art side of things, and then whatever else is interesting. What's really kind of crazy and what's driving the market right now is a continued fall off of blur farming. And right now it's Machi that is teasing that he is going to join the Friendtech. Um, I want to say bubble, but I don't think that's necessarily the proper term yet. But the Friendtech craze and get in on there. So some of his activity and volume that goes on Blur may be reduced or disappear. There's quite an anticipation of an airdrop going on for Friendtech, and as such, you're going to see continued Blur farming moving over. But what that's done is it's reduced some of the volume on Blur, and as such, it's created a little less liquidity, but also a little less churn of NFTs at the bottom end of collections. And I think overall, it's been positive. I've kind of tried to hint in some of the spaces that we've had with the crew at Alfie and with Poppy is that I I believe we're bottoming out in the NFT market. Of course, I say hint because it's so hard to A, call the bottom of any market, but B, just the way the NFT market has been for so long here in this downward kind of slope and like a drop of volume and almost what is seemingly dying off. It's been hard to make that definitive call, but there's still plenty of positive activity going on in the market, especially on the art side of things. Gaming side of things seems to be picking up, and overall, I think it appears that that trough that we were in may be coming to an end. Of course, I may reflect back here in as early as a week or so and realize that no, this wasn't a bottoming. So you gotta always kind of keep with that perspective and DCA and make those conviction plays when you're after it. But the general latest consensus and buzz, I won't say consensus, but the latest buzz that I've picked up is that that's the impression is that you know we're we're looking positive moving into October here. Of course, a run on Bitcoin and ETH yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Days blur together, but that pump and candle kind of give a little bit more of a positive spin for some of the others that I pay attention to in the space, and of course that brings the sentiment up. So things can change pretty fast in that respect. If we were to look at the buyer to seller ratio, it's been pretty consistent in this 85% range. So I still wouldn't consider anything bullish in that respect. I want to see this positive, some more buyers and sellers to really call some form of real shift in the market. At least that's my perception on what shifted to to the market being slower. So a turn there, I think, is going to be a really good indicator. And until we see that with happen, there's still always that hesitation. Um, Buyers, sellers, everything is super consistent across the board. It's almost sounding broken. Nothing's changed really over the last 2 months. Everything's been right at that consistent level. So, daily active traders, 12,500 almost every day, kind of an average rate between there and say 10,000. Uh, really consistent. Daily unique buyers is in that 6,000 range every day. So that's consistent. Daily new buyers is really consistent in that 1K range. So all good to see. And this is where I think this is where I'm getting that perception that we're bottoming out. So we've had such a consistency after a period of kind of slow decline, and having this consistency at a level I think is that kind of potential consolidation, or at least that pause before things move up. So that's what I'm making a little bit more vocal in this form here. Haven't gone as far to state it in the Thursday spaces yet, but at least what I'm watching for. Blur WETH bidding is hovering that 70% range, down from the peaks that it's at. I still want to get into that 60% range, so we'll see where that gets to. And yeah, actually, this was the other interesting chart. Is looking at the number of active wallets, say over the last, if we go the last month, we're at 111,000, which is pretty significant. And then if we go back to January 1st, so year to date, 918,000. So that's gone up about, I think, 20K from a couple weeks ago. And then if we go way back, and this is October 2021, so this was peak bull. There's 2.7 million wallets that have made a purchase of ETH NFTs, and so you know, far cry in terms of the amount of total wallets that have transacted, but that can range from any sort of thing there. So, and then just because there's wallets that haven't transaction doesn't mean they're not active within the space, Twitter, Discords, etc. So, and I think a lot of people are sitting there watching for something to really move the market. Still getting over a cold, coming out the tail end of that, but just nursing the voice and the cough. We have a leveling off that has also occurred on the blue chip index for really the last month, 2 months, well, 5 weeks, I guess, so to speak. So it's been pretty consistent. Of course, there's been some variations up and down. Notably, here over the last week, we have Bored Ape Yacht Club moving up a good 7%, which is positive. Pudgy Penguins has given it back a little bit of the spike gains that they had through the kind of the Walmart announcement, but above where they were kind of pre-tease of the announcement, and then really kind of teasing in this new range of, I guess, 4.65 range. So doing well. It's gonna probably take some kind of sales figures and things like that will maybe drive some excess there. There's royalty sharing, etc., from the items that have traits that are associated. So all really cool to see, and see that success of the IP and then kind of the plushies, and what other brands could potentially do something like that. I know beans are in that realm of possibly being kind of cutesy and maybe on the Eastern market. Safi Seals might have an opportunity there. Of course, that's a lot more that goes behind what that team is doing, etc. And in terms of what they're going to be able to produce. And then mid cap index, a bit of a positive and a slowing of that consistent decline. So again, positive in that respect. And yeah, that's kind of the overview. Danksy, welcome. How's it going? No worries. I Awesome. I just fired it up here not too long ago. I was just mentioning to Halo there that it is a Canadian holiday, so it's a bit of a it throws you off on the regular routine, especially on Mondays. I got an hour or so blocked off in the afternoons that I plan on doing this during my regular work day, but trying to escape from the kids when the kids are home and acting like crazy kids as they are. Gets a little harder. And then, as I mentioned, that next weekend is also Canadian Thanksgiving, so back to back long weekends. So I'll have to really see how next weekend plays out and whether or not I can get another one of these sessions in. But liking getting these going and getting that active, but I'll make sure that they're consistent and then schedule them in. So hopefully we can get a little bit more of a active discussion. If not, I mean, I'm quite happy just going through and talking about everything that I see and what's going on. So yeah, we talked about the velocity pass. I know I brought that up last Monday. It did a bit of a cook here this morning. Still unclear in terms of what the requirement is for being able to mint. I don't know if it's like a scenario where you have to have 4 passes or what that case is, because the snow fro drop will be 250 if it's the same as the other ones, and this velocity pass is a collection of 1,000. So I don't know if that 4 ETH, well, actually, it's higher than that now, makes a ton of sense. But it was a strong kind of speculative play from last week. And I guess sometimes that's what you just go with is, hey, the next one, you go with it, right? And there is another similar situation, but this is on the extreme high end. And that is let me just see if I can find it here. The Rare Pass. And so Rare Pass came out at 17 ETH back in the day. Where can I click this? Copy link. Okay. And so it came out at 17 ETH. It was recently at 10 ETH. And it has since kind of already pumped back up to, at least what I last checked here, about 18 ETH. So that move is kind of there out again. Um, uh, not a large collection or group size. So then all it takes is a few to move it right back up in terms of price. But the rare pass is required for the drops that are available. The next one is Matt Kane, who has done it's not, I think it's Gazers. So a 130 ETH floor project. Um, and so that's the next drop. And then the one after that is X Copy. So two pretty prominent artists holding the rare pass gets you those drops. 18 ETH doesn't seem like it's worth it, but I think what's interesting here is keeping this kind of on the watch. Uh, Again, it's a high end play, or like it's going to take probably 10, 12 ETH to get in on this, to then be able to get access to those next two drops. But it's worth noting that these passes, as they are, seem to be uh, quite worthwhile and have performed well recently, where it was a kind of a duration of time where these passes kind of were quiet and weren't as strong. But I think just with everything going on in the art space right now, everything's kind of turning up pretty good attention for what's the art passes. So and then going back to the Google Doc, I have been adding in um, upcoming mints that are of note. So, if you're accessing the Google Doc, we do have a tab in there for upcoming mints, breaks it down when, there's some notes that are on it, a link, etc. And then happy to discuss whether it's Discord or whatnot. I'm looking into any of these in detail. A lot of them are not super easy to get access to, auctions or whitelist or, current holders of X collection, or you need a mint pass, etc. But they're very important to know what is coming up, because then it's an opportunity for seeing some of that post activity and what's there for a potential kind of play. Speaking of Fuel World, I did have made some comments on Fuel World that I was tempered on it. 3D art, PFPs haven't necessarily always connected well. This collection did not fully mint out, so supply was cut down to 18,000, and then Fuel World reveal recently happened here this afternoon, and it did not um fuel. I think it was on the trending. It should just be fuel world, but sometimes these collections are hard. There we go. But it did not come out too well. So I think it was trading at about zero point 0.1 um, or close to it, and now it's at zero point 0.8. So a dip and not a very significant rebound after as well. Sometimes you typically you always have that dip no matter what, as people kind of dump to collect rares. It was a just a dip overall, and looking at some of the rares and looking at how they landed, I I don't know if there's just not very good contrast, but if you look at these, they just don't stand out super well. I mean, some of them kind of work, but because of the style they are and that there's no kind of outline to them, um, in that small form PFP, which ultimately it is, I don't think it plays well. Now, of course, there's more of a promise with this being part of a FIWA world and 3D and clothing and this and that and everything else. So there's the idea that this may kind of go into a bit of a metaverse or whatever the case may be. So maybe that's the value to it, but um, you know, it doesn't land super strong, which is a bit sad considering Fuel having such a cool art style and the ability to maybe have made something pretty incredible. But if it was something more like this contrasty bubble and that kind of starter stuff, I think it plays much better. But that's doesn't necessarily take away from the quality of the art. And I think there's a lot of kind of cool things that are done on the generative side, but it does make it harder for people to connect with such a large collection for the use of PFPs. So, kind of called that one appropriately in that respect. Um, Even though it was on the kind of the mint watch list, because I mean it's such a notable collection. I mean, been kind of anticipated for so long, but doesn't mean it's always necessarily gonna land um, well. Ringer's Lakma. I don't know if this one's gonna say how many of these went out, but this was just a straight kind of uh, collection based item. Uh, just being able to own uh, a kind of a Cherniak print piece, which I think is really nice. But it, uh, whether or not it's going to appreciate in value, I'd say is maybe a lot less likely. But they're pretty cool prints. Looks like 726 might have sold at the cost of roughly around 860 to about 1200, depending on if they're framed or not. Um, so not as many as I thought might have sold. So maybe these have some potential to appreciate. I don't know if there's a secondary market on this as well. But kind of interesting. I know if I had if I had the house for it, and whatnot, I think this was pretty cool. But I don't necessarily have a. I guess the office would have been the only spot, but I don't think the wife would act too kindly of me spending $1,200 on art, even though that's small compared to what we spend on NFTs. So it's it's funny how that works. I can take an NFT, print it off, put it on the wall, and it doesn't seem like it's was that $10,000 NFT, but it was, and it's been printed. But if you're to spend something on an actual piece of art, uh, then it changes things. So it's interesting how that scope is. Any thoughts, questions that you guys might have over what's going on, or wanna talk about, or go through, or I didn't realize it had since declined. Although I would you know expect. I mean, it's been doing that quite a bit lately, where you get these periodic pumps and then pullbacks. Um, what was the latest cause of this run up? Was this in anticipation of a form of ETF kind of coming through, or what caused this kind of pump yesterday? Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what I had figured, but I mean, if you look at just the kind of the way this is kind of slid through the moving averages over the past range here, where it's like, you know, under the moving averages and looking very bearish, and then it breaks out, and then suddenly it's quickly under it again. Although, there is some support now at the 1650 range um, for where ETH is at. But I think on the on Bitcoin or ETH. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. hmm Yeah, see, and I always I'm always looking at the 4 hour, um, and you kind of forget to cycle through some of the different time frames because you're going to get different moving averages on it, right? So, the 4 hours is the one that's shooting above and looking like it's out and performing well, but really the daily, weekly, monthly are gonna kind of play a little bit better to the kind of actual strength of what's there on the moving averages. Yeah. Okay. hmm Yeah. 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 There's that degree of buzz, etc. That's been kind of hanging around here for some time. I think the thought though is it may not, nothing might not land until 2024. Um, at which point then we're just gonna kind of be back and forth in this kind of rumor and cycle of where ETH and Bitcoin are. But I think, long term, I think we're overall um, fairly positive and bullish on where both are headed. Um, Unless there's some kind of swan type event, or they reject the ETF, and then I guess that would be a pretty large hit to what is the expectations on crypto. And then there's some of the macro stuff that is involved in the terms of U.S. and U.S. Spending, etc., and whether or not crypto is considered some of that uh, safety from there, which I think you know it's discussed as, but times show that when things get really crazy, you know, war, etc., pandemics, sometimes that's where people are saying, "Hey, I don't." At the end of the day, cash is king. So um, those can kind of play a bit different too. So, but yeah, the daily is good alpha on the moving averages. Like I said, I'm always looking at the 4 hour, and I don't know why I've left it on the 4 hour. I mean, I've gotten used to it, and I guess that's kind of where I can kind of look at and evaluate ETH a bit better. I guess, I like to look at uh, TD sequential and kind of the momentum that exists with the kind of the nine candle aspect of it, and that's kind of the indicator that I've used for so long, is kind of being something to look at and watch. And I guess with the frequency of the the candles on the 4 hour is just something that I've gotten kind of used to. So, um, but uh, with it being a lot more stable recently, I think the daily might be a better way to look at it. But yeah, quite the set of candles that we had um, there, and like we've had them like go back to the 28th, and there was a that massive Bitcoin candle, and it's straight back down again. which was probably again some uh, idea of the ETF or something like that that pushed it. Although 28th is that's Tuesday, so that's not the Wednesday meetings or anything like that. What else? Anything else we can chat on? Take a look at some of the trending here on OpenSea. I deeply miss the days where you could jump on and see a collection that was running, you know, multiple hundred sales per 15 minutes and look at that uh, degree of whether or not to make a quick move or a quick flip and make those trades. So it's a little sad that that kind of volume hasn't been around as much. Um, but I thought these were actually supposed to review or reveal. When's it? Yeah, when I interesting. So over the last week, a lot of collections are positive in the about 8% range. Apes up 9%. Again, not very significant volume, but it's that blur death loop that exists when people are able to exit into liquidity and do that kind of flipping, and then they acquire and don't want to hold. So I think the less liquidity provides a little bit more stability and likely result in either a slower bleed or at least some positive moves on some of these collections that are still doing well. Uh, and the theory behind that is it goes kind of back to where the art market is, and the art market has had less liquidity as well, and as such, have held a better floor. Now, of course, what plays into some of the art collections is that they are accumulated by smaller groups of people, and then they kind of help maintain the floor based on that as well. So it can make it a little bit easier to kind of maintain um, that. There was also the proof scale back kind of scenario that happened here, I guess today. So if scrolling through the feed and see that NFT Stats isn't doing any videos this week, that they're reevaluating what they're able to do on a daily basis. Of course, they do quite a bit of production behind it to produce what he does, and obviously he's spending a lot of time on it. Um, but Proof has scaled back operations based on where the general market is, which is interesting. I mean, ultimately, nothing's really changed for them unless they're looking at it as a revenue stream for lack of royalties, and that's why they've kind of gone ahead and done something like that. Um, but their collections overall and the amount of revenue that they have collected so far is fairly substantial. Um, but it kind of follows through on that kind of long um I don't know how to phrase it, but the lack of delivery and kind of that bear sentiment towards Moonbirds and Proof, just given the fact that expectations probably skyrocketed too significantly, and then this narrative is now on Kevin on not delivering and not providing value and not caring about what he has done, and then to have things cut back and do this layoff, it just produces this. It further enhances, reinforces kind of that perception, and I don't know if this is if it's impacted Moonbirds here yet. I guess we can go to say the 6 hour, see them on here, or just go look at the collection itself. Proof pass is down about 12%. Um, and then Moonbirds. Moonbirds doesn't trade a ton, so it may not immediately impact anything. If I'm looking at sales here, doesn't look like anything on the recency that I guess there's more sales here in the last day here, all in that same range as where it's been recently, 1.1, 1.2. But yeah, I guess there is a bit of a increased sales volume here, negative sales volume, kind of in relation to NFT stats is one of the strongest um, figures in the space and produces such high quality content, and being associated with Moonbirds and Proof and what they're doing, I think helps reinforce at least what they have done and delivered. But having that scale back or doing anything different there, I think is tough, because the content was really good. So hopefully they're able to find a good cadence. I mean, maybe if they're not producing it at the degree of level that they are, he should be able to still kind of be able to do a lot of what he's doing, but um, you know, would be missed if it changes to that degree. But it also provides um, opportunity for other collections to do something similar, right? Which is, timing wise, like I said, the market feels like it's really leveled off for such a duration of time that uh, I think there is a bit of positive sentiment right now that things could do well. So still hesitate to call that out. And I guess after you come out of a bit of a bubble and go through a bit of a bear market, it's really challenging. It's that degree of doubt that exists when when signs look like they're maybe turning. So, but gaming and art seem to be doing pretty well. PFPs are haven't hit too well for a period of time here. The last collection that has had any degree of success is Nakamigos, and even with them, they have um, you know had their ups and downs too. So, but yeah, it's more gaming utility art where some of that success has been. Danksy, I know you uh, dabbled at least in Frentech and Halo. I don't know if you have explored it at all. What's the opinion on the the newest innovation in uh, blockchain? Yeah, so Frentech is a, has been pretty consistent. They're coming out with more and more features that help financialize more in terms of actual features for um, content value. Uh, you know, reply and read receipts and things like that are there. But yeah, it has held kind of being very financialized and speculative and airdrop focused, and that's my bearish take on Frentech. But the bullish case is that it's still very small in terms of where it could be, and there's a lot of farming dollars that are seemingly moving into it. So, but Hmm. Yeah, it makes it very challenging to, you're right, to gain access to anyone of substance. And the other thing is that you could pay that to get that access, but that doesn't obligate the person to provide any return, right? It's, they could create the account and literally say nothing, right? And and you've now spent a bunch of money with that hope. Of course, you can you can resell the key, and cost you 20% or whatever your entry is, so it's not as dramatic as the price tag is. Um, but yeah, it seems like it's a bit of a echo chamber of crypto and NFTs for the most part. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. It's essentially uh, a individualized NFT collection, right? Uh, hmm. Hmm. Now, I wonder if there's any way of um, NFT collections kind of I don't know if you can adopt friend tech, or if there's a way you can capitalize on friend tech to a degree in terms of um, whether it's being available there, or whether it's, yeah, I don't know, if there's an opportunity per se, right? Like, no. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Well, and the part, yeah, I initially, because like I heard through it on the kind of the August 2021 kind of hype run there, that it moved on. And then my initial thought was, okay, Ponzi, it only survives if more and more people come in, and you're not the last one in, so to speak. But then, and it slowed down, and then it really kind of regained traction again here, I guess a couple weeks ago. And TVL continuously goes up. Now, just because TVL goes up, I don't know if I mean, overall, most metrics on it are pretty strong. But like, if you look at it and you think, okay, why is it strong? It's being strong because it's people trying to earn for an airdrop. But the real bizarre thing about the airdrop perspective is that if you're in there to try and get an airdrop, then what happens when you get the airdrop, right? It's this mass exodus. Everyone's selling keys because they've got the airdrop, and then a mass selling of the airdrop token, which then devalues the airdrop. So I think it's it, I don't see a lot of angles where it's super positive, and that your chances are your best play is to be out prior to anything on the airdrop perspective. But it's capturing a decent amount of attention and involvement from crypto and NFT communities, and then of course whales in there. So it's a hard thing to ignore because it impacts the overall NFT market space as well. So um, it's interesting, and it's trying to determine what who becomes successful in friend tech, what they're doing, which is different than what is possible to be doing on Twitter or newsletters or Discord or NFT collections, etc. Right? No, no, because you have things like Patreon or OnlyFans or um, you know uh, uh, Substack. You have these avenues where subscription models exist. I think Patreon is probably something that I'd consider among the closest to what friend tech is, where you get access to um, a community, and then whoever you're supporting, and then the idea behind that is you have that close proximity access within it. So it's nothing new. It's just the the crypto side of it and the lucrative or ludicrous prices as well, but the lucrative values that are there that have made things go a little bit crazier. So. Yep. Yep. One of my um, favorite uses is the tokenization of physical goods uh, for the purpose of creating a market and maintaining the quality of the good. I always thought that was something that was really applicable. You can kind of think of, like, say, that Pokemon drop that recently happened, um, but just being able to say, okay, you take something like shoes or any limited release item, and you attach the NFT to it. You find a way to warehouse or store it, or whatever the case may be, and then you could use that market to trade the item. And I thought that was kind of a really cool application and something that will eventually exist. So kind of looking forward to something like that happening. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's true, right? Especially if you have royalty issues too, right? Um, you're not making it very much money per transaction um, on it. So, very good point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah. 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 And finally capitulate. I'm selling it, and then boom, there it goes. Hmm. Excellent. You need to pre-sell it. Sweet. I am gonna get back to the family. I hear lots of noise. I hear a grumpy kid causing havoc for the wife. So I am going to bounce for now. I'll post up the video here shortly. And then, yeah, we'll get at it this week. October, so far, October has been positive. At least it was, at least temporarily, because of the crypto pump. But I think a new month, fresh new month, we can hopefully see some positive activities. So thanks for joining and chatting, guys. And we'll do it again soon. Pre- Appreciate it. See you later, Hypno. And yeah, we'll catch you guys later.